Thanks everyone for joining us for video 3. My name is Brad Ashley. I'm the Director of Business Development here at Solve.
And I'm Scott Campbell. I'm the CEO here at Solve 3D. And Brad, what's video 3 all about?
Video 3, we're going to talk about using the model that we trained in video 2 to classify unclassified data. Before we get into it too far though, Scott, were there any questions or any critical things that came up that you'd like to do a quick recap of?
Yeah, let's do a quick recap. So in video 1, of course, as we talked about, we prepared the data and we split it into 2 pieces. We talked a lot about the importance of the quality of that data for training. In video 2, we showed everybody how to run the learning algorithm on that training and validation data to generate the trained model that we're going to talk about here.
Perfect.
So yeah, let's talk about using this trained model then, Brad, and how do we go about using it?
Yeah, so as we saw in the previous video, we now have that trained model. And so the intent here is to take unclassified data that's just been collected in the field, that's not been run through any other software packages, and to run it against that trained model to end up with classified data. So let's take a look.
Okay, Kevin, take me through how we're going to use our newly trained model to classify LiDAR data.
Sure. So within Engine here, we're going to open the object classification module section and expand that and find point cloud classification. Click that. It appears over in your operation area. So for this workshop, we're going to run this on multiple files. So that means we're going to switch into batch mode by clicking this checkbox. And we simply just got to select a few folders here. So input folder is going to be the test data from the workshop. These are all our unclassified LAS files. The output folder is going to be my results. So you can keep it separate from the Solves version of the results that you might want to compare against later. The classification model is going to be that new model we just trained. So that's under workshop, workshop my results, and then you should select that PTH file. Yep. And we'll quickly talk about some of these advanced parameters. So expand that. For the purpose of this workshop, we're just going to leave it on the default, so use model default. You may want to change these on another computer if you're running training on maybe you ran training on a certain computer, but you have maybe you're running detection on a laptop or something that doesn't have the same amount of resources. You may want to change those settings to a lower value, but for now we're just going to leave this as default. Same with the points count. We're going to leave that on use model default. And the block size, we're just going to leave blank. Number of passes is important. I'll briefly talk about what this is. So while it's doing the prediction or the classification on each point cloud, it's internally taking up a certain number of points based off that point count, and it's overlapping those points with little sections between each pass. So if we say set this on 1 pass, it's not going to do any overlap. However, we set it to 3 passes, which we'll do in this case, it's going to overlap those points up to 3 times and take the most popular result of what it's detected. So if it's found all these points in all 3 passes are ground, then it's likely that this point is actually ground. Just keep in mind that if you do this, it is going to take like 3 times longer to run the detection, but it should increase the accuracy, or you should get some better results in the end.
Okay, so that's the advanced parameters. Everything is set. So now we're good to go. So I go down and click the red execute button and then confirm workflow. Yes, execute workflow. And here we go.
Yep. So just a couple things to note while this is starting up. Again, it's going to, crunch through all the files one by one and, start processing each one and doing the classifications. You're not going to get a TensorBoard file like you did, or TensorBoard window like you did with the training screen. It's simply just going to keep outputting logs from each batch, and each pass there, iteration 1 of 3 is the passes. And you get, in the end, you should get a folder of LAS files that is classified based off your model.
Okay, so because we're using 3 we just talked about. This is going to take a while. So why don't we fast forward to the end, and then we'll get Brad to walk us through the results.
Sounds good.
Next, all the classified data, and you might see this as or recognize this from video 1. We had popped this up in video 1 to show the classified resulting data, and here you can see the same thing. We've run it through. It was unclassified to begin with. In this case, we now have 7 classifications that have come out the other side, and this is totally based on that training algorithm that we trained in video 2.
Yeah, this looks pretty cool. And of course, this is what it's all about, right? This is the purpose of the whole thing. This is like having a tool that allows you to quickly and easily classify your LiDAR data. I think there's a key point I want to make here, Brad, and that's before you use the model, which is now where we are, I think it's important for everybody to test it to make sure that it's going to meet your expectations. Again, to go back to that example we used in video 1, fire hydrants, Chicago, Paris. You know, if you've trained your model on Chicago and now all of a sudden you want to go run it in Paris, but they got different shapes, you want to run some data through just to make sure it's going to meet your expectations. So absolutely, test your model first time before you go to use it. And with that said, this is video 3, Brad. What are the next steps?
Yeah, so once you've now taken the data that we provided, you run it through and against the model that you trained in video 2, you should now be able to compare those results. And we'll actually check in with you over the next week to ensure that the results that you've got match those of what we see here. Once you've done that and we're ready to go, our next recommendation is to start training a model based on your own data sets and to then run an unclassified tile against that trained model. So this is kind of the exciting part. This is where you would take your own data, your own classified data, train that model, then run an unclassified tile against it. And of course, if you have any questions or concerns, we're always here for you. You can always contact us at support@solved.com, and we'll be happy to assist you through this process. Again, thanks for taking the time on these 3 videos. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you've learned something, and we're excited to get this tool in your hands.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks a lot, guys, and we'll see you on the other side.